Hey everyone, tonight we're stepping into the sandals of a Roman emperor, not for the power, not for the glory, but to find out why absolute rule came with absolute misery. Forget majestic banquets and marble statues. Being emperor meant living in a constant fog of paranoia, betrayal and backstabbing. Sometimes literally, sometimes at breakfast. Imagine waking up every day wondering if your wine was poisoned, your guards were bribed, or your nephew was starting a rebellion over lunch. You'd be worshipped in public, mocked in private, and blamed for everything from plagues to bad weather. One wrong word and the Senate might declare you a god, or a public enemy. You wouldn't sleep, you wouldn't trust anyone, and you definitely wouldn't enjoy the toga. Even your statues might start to look at you funny. Because in Rome, ruling the world often meant losing your mind first. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here, and let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now dim the lights, let your mind wander, and allow the gentle rhythm of my voice to lull you towards sleep. Maybe settle in, pull your blanket a little closer, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Let's start with a simple question. Have you ever wanted absolute power? Maybe just for a day, a week, enough time to cancel taxes, outlaw bad music and replace every Monday with a national nap? Well, welcome to Rome, where being emperor was exactly like that. If your dream version also included regular assassination attempts, infinite paranoia, and the near certainty that your best friend would sell you out for a better seat at the gladiator games. Let's be clear, being Roman emperor wasn't so much a job as it was a very elaborate form of public endangerment-themed performance art. It was like trying to host a dinner party where the appetizers are poisoned, your guests all want your chair, and the kitchen is on fire, and you are also on fire. Breakfast of the damned. A typical morning for the emperor began early, very early. As in, rooster didn't even try yet early. You'd be woken by your slaves, scrubbed down, perfumed, dressed in togas so stiff they could stand on their own, and marched into a day full of public duties. First order of business, survival. You might start by consulting your food taster. If he dropped dead after sampling the figs, you knew to cancel brunch. You also might want to have a chat with your mother, your wife, or your cousin who's been unusually cheerful lately. In imperial Rome, someone being in a good mood was a red flag. Then, of course, came the letters. Hundreds of petitions, complaints, pleas, bribes disguised as compliments. Everyone wanted something, and they wanted it yesterday. You were part Supreme Court, part celebrity, part hostage negotiator, and let's not forget your schedule. 7 a.m, avoid assassination. 8 a.m, receive ambassadors, don't offend them, they might have armies. 9 a.m, try not to say anything that sounds like I trust the Senate. 10 a.m, sit very still while a barber shaves you with a knife near your throat. Friends, Romans, backstabbers. Trust was optional, dangerous even. The Senate hated you. The army tolerated you. The Praetorian Guard, your elite bodyguards, had a buy one murder get one free deal going with half the city. The palace was filled with whispers, eyes behind curtains, and that one eunuch who always knew a little too much. You could be worshipped as a god in the morning, and gutted like a fish by dinner. Caligula made his horse a consul. Elagabalus served dinner guests fake food and laughed when they starved. Nero composed poems while Rome burned. These were not stable men. These were not even men you'd want to share a cab with. So why did anyone want this job? Because the perks were insane. Gold, statues, power, the right to change the calendar if your birthday was coming up, a whole empire hanging on your every word. The gods themselves, well, their PR teams, bowed to your whims. And sometimes, for a moment, it almost felt like you were a god, until someone slipped something in your wine. Lunch with the untrustables. Let's say you made it to lunch. Congratulations. That puts you ahead of half the emperors in history. Lunch might be simple, bread, olives, wine. Or it might be extravagant. Peacock tongues, jellyfish, dormice stuffed with honey and regret. You'd eat while being flattered, begged, and manipulated. Senators would recite poetry. Generals would try to one-up each other with tales of conquest. Your cousin would pretend not to be planning your downfall in iambic pentameter. Of course, it wasn't all flattery. Sometimes you had to make decisions. Big ones, like whether to raise taxes or declare war, or whether to execute your brother for winking too smugly at your mistress. These decisions often came with consequences. Political ones, military ones, occasionally meteorological ones. Romans were very superstitious. Birds flying the wrong way could cancel a campaign. A weird dream about cows? That might mean civil war. All the while, your enemies multiplied like toga-clad rabbits. You had to stay 3 steps ahead. 4, if your sandals were slippery. To be continued. Rise and shine, your imperial highness. The marble floors are cold. Your head is pounding from last night's symposium, which you definitely don't remember ending. And already 3 different slaves are arguing about which tunic makes you look more divine. But never mind the hangover or the fashion crisis. It's breakfast time in the imperial palace, and you are the centre of an extremely dangerous solar system of poisoned figs, fake smiles, and senators who bow just a little too low. Menu du jour. Existential dread breakfast is served. Not by one servant, of course, but by an entire choreographed team of attendants whose job is to carry fruit like it's a religious relic and pour wine like it's their final exam. Figures, always figs. Because ever since Emperor Augustus claimed he lived on them, they became the royal breakfast of choice. Never mind that your predecessor was probably murdered by one. Which brings us to the first big problem of the day. Can you eat anything without dying? You have a food taster, naturally. But can he be trusted? He was recommended by your cousin, who definitely wants your job. And look at the way he sniffed that honey-drenched dormouse. A bit too carefully, don't you think? The Emperor's morning briefing, aka gossip time. While you nibble your maybe poisonous fruit, your advisors begin the morning scroll review. This is basically the Roman version of checking your inbox while your brain still hasn't booted up. Good morning, Caesar. Today in foreign affairs, Dacia's mad again. The Nile flooded, and there's a new poet in town mocking your jawline. You consider sending him to the mines, or hiring him as your official insult writer. Depends how the rest of the day goes. Then there's the matter of your mother. Ah, yes, dearest mother. She loves you. She raised you. She also probably arranged the death of your half-brother and keeps offering you herbal teas that smell like regret. She's at the door now, smiling. Run. Royal hygiene and existential despair. Time to wash up. You shuffle off to the private baths flanked by slaves and silence. The air is perfumed with oils and rose petals because apparently even your toes must smell divine. You submerge yourself into a warm bath trying to relax. But instead of peace, your brain plays an endless loop of questions. What if the Senate is plotting? What if your guards were bribed? What if the soap is laced with something? Even your rubber duck is suspicious. You emerge, not refreshed, but slightly more moist and equally paranoid. Dressed to depress now for the dressing ceremony. Yes, it's a ceremony. You don't just throw on a toga. No, a toga is 16 feet of woolen fabric folded like you're a human lasagna. And there are rules. If it drapes too casually, you're a disgrace to Rome. If it's too stiff, you look like a statue. And if you trip on it in front of the Senate, you're officially the least intimidating man in sandals. A slave fastens your imperial belt. Another one hands you the laurel crown. You're now officially ready for the public. Or at least ready to pretend you are. And outside, the people roar. You hear them beyond the palace walls, the crowds, the chants, the chaotic love of a city that will either adore you or tear you limb from limb, depending on how generous you are with free bread. You're emperor of the greatest empire on earth, but also a man afraid of his breakfast, and it's not even noon yet. So you've survived your breakfast, dodged poison, backhanded a cousin, and waved politely to a senator whose smile was just a bit too wide. Time for some good old-fashioned luxury. Because if there's one thing emperors did well, it was excess. Rome didn't build an empire just to skip brunch. The morning parade of obsessions. Start your day by being carried to your personal bathhouse by at least 16 shirtless, oiled-up men. Why 16? Because 15 is for plebs. Then your bath sequence. Yes, sequence. First warm water, then cold, then hot, then flower-scented, then goat milk, then, inexplicably, crushed pearl. It's not skincare unless it costs more than a house. All the while someone reads you Homer, or praises your chin, or weeps gently at your feet because you sneezed and it reminded them of Apollo. Lunch, 47 courses and a lawsuit. Forget sandwiches. You're eating stuffed dormice on a silver plate, peacock tongues served with gold dust, and oysters shipped in from a region you just conquered last week. Your wine, cut with just enough lead to taste vintage. Lead poisoning builds character. As you eat, musicians play lyres. Poets recite flattery. Mimes reenact your glorious victory over a mildly rebellious fishing village. And someone nearby is writing everything down, just in case historians need to know that you preferred your figs sun-dried and your enemies boiled. Afternoon power naps, or coup. Around the 4th hour you nap, or pretend to nap. Really, you're letting the senators wonder if they're getting promoted, or arrested. This is also when your mother sends you a cryptic note about how she dreamed of a bleeding eagle, and you should beware Tuesdays. Meanwhile, your Praetorian Guard is whispering about your cousin again, or maybe your astrologer, or both. Sometimes you wake up with a new law passed in your name. Mandatory harp lessons for all boys named Marcus. You nod sagely, very wise. Decisions, decisions. What shall we do about the Parthians, the general asks. You blink. You are thinking about whether red or purple robes better conceal wine stains. You wave your hand. Send them a fruit basket, and double the taxes in Gaul. It doesn't make sense, but everyone claps. As the sun begins to set, the dinner orgy looms, but that's a story for the next part. Until then, sip your diluted poison wine, and ponder which statue of yourself looks the most like a god. Spoiler, all of them. So, the sun is setting over Rome. A golden haze rolls across the Palatine Hill, and from every fountain burbles not water, but very expensive wine you'll pretend to enjoy. Which means it's time for the imperial banquet, or, as your liver now refers to it, the festival of poor decisions. Setting the scene. The dining room is a marvel. A rotating ceiling sprinkled with rose petals, ivory couches positioned just so, and a suspicious number of statues that look like you but with slightly more muscles. You recline, toga barely hanging on, attended by slaves who've been rehearsing how to fan you without looking directly at your face. On the walls, mosaics depicting your imaginary military victories. You bravely defeating 6 elephants with 1 eyebrow raise. Total fiction. Absolute masterpiece. The courses begin. Send in the flamingos. First course, olives. Simple, harmless. Then it escalates. Flamingo tongues, jellyfish and saffron. A whole boar, roasted and stuffed with songbirds. You haven't tasted a vegetable since last equinox. A philosopher tries to tell you this is wasteful. You feed him to your pet leopard. The guests clap. Polite, nervous clapping. The wine flows like a broken aqueduct. One senator is already under the table muttering about Neptune's revenge. Another is dueling a roast duck. You pretend not to notice. Entertainment or cry for help? A poet stands to recite a dramatic retelling of your birth, complete with interpretive dance and alarming amounts of glitter. Then, acrobats, a troupe of flute-playing dwarves, and something involving a goose you're pretty sure wasn't cleared by the animal handlers. Halfway through, someone presents you with a statue made of cheese. You weep openly, not from emotion, just indigestion. Your mother arrives. Run. The doors fly open. Your mother enters draped in silk and judgment. She kisses you on the forehead and tells the room again about the time you peed on a senator's sandals as a toddler. The guests laugh. You plot 3 assassinations in your mind. Late-night philosophy and existential panic. As the night drags on and reality slips into soft focus, a stoic philosopher, clearly drunk, asks you what it all means. You stare at your 4th helping of eel pudding and whisper, "I don't know anymore." Then you announce a new law. Every citizen must compliment a pigeon daily. Everyone cheers. It's unclear why. Final toast. The final toast is made in your honour. The cup is gold. The wine is purple. You raise it with a shaky hand, realising you haven't stood up in 9 hours. May Rome endure, you declare, and may my enemies get diarrhea. Thunderous applause. A servant quietly vomits into a vase. Fade to black. As you're carried to bed, snoring, drooling, dreaming of betrayal, the guests file out. Some crawling, some crying. One still chewing peacock. Tomorrow you'll wake up with a headache and 3 new laws on your desk, none of which you remember writing. But for now, you sleep. Or try to. The fountains are still burbling wine and your mother is singing a lullaby from your childhood that always sounded suspiciously like a death threat. The sun has long set. You're technically still digesting a goose stuffed with pearls and existential dread, but the real business of being emperor has only just begun. It's time for your least favourite activity, talking to the Senate. Welcome to the world's pettiest power struggle. They gather in their togas, carefully bleached, excessively folded, and reeking of too much perfume and not enough backbone. You sit on your golden throne, aka the "please don't stab me" chair, and try to look mildly interested. The senators rise, one by one, each outdoing the last in flattery. O divine radiance whose wisdom eclipses Jupiter's own, you yawn. Whose breath smells like the blossoms of springtime, you scratch your ear. May I respectfully suggest we tax widows more aggressively this year? There it is. The agenda, wrapped in roses, dipped in arsenic, the art of fake listening. While they drone on, you mentally rearrange your statue garden. Should the one of you with the eagle be closer to the one of you with the lightning bolt? Or is that too subtle a message? Someone mentions the military. You nod solemnly and whisper, "Yes." the troops. You have no idea which ones or where. You, the living god, have trust issues mid-debate. A senator passes you a tray of grapes, too juicy, too perfect, clearly poisoned. You nod to your food taster. He bites one, hesitates, and collapses in dramatic slow motion. You sigh. Again? The senator gasps. I had no idea. You smile gently. Of course not. Please enjoy the rest of your grapes, alone. He dies of accidental Windows defenestration later that evening, an unexpected trial of you. At some point in the evening, someone brings up the scandal. No, not that one, or that one, the other one, the real one. The matter of your sudden affection for Greek-style architecture and questionable statues. You deny everything, firmly, loudly. You threaten to turn the Senate building into a brothel if this continues. Everyone claps. A reminder from your mother. Again. Right as you're about to call the session concluded by divine will. A messenger from your mother arrives. She's had another dream. This time, a flaming serpent dancing on a loaf of bread. She says it means someone is plotting against you using baked goods. You nod. No more focaccia. Ever. You pass a law, because why not? Just before leaving, you declare that all senators must now own a goose, for morale and surveillance. You also rename July to Mealy. A scribe whispers, Sir, that month is already named after Julius Caesar. You blink. Who? Onward to the emperor's bedtime. The session ends. You're carried away again, reclining like a confused demigod. Your chambers await. Perfumed sheets, dancing shadows, at least 6 hidden knives. You settle in for a good night's rest, until 3 new conspiracies are whispered through the wall, and a dancer in a cat mask offers to read you stoic philosophy. You say yes. Sleep tight, Emperor. It's past midnight. Your courtiers are drunk, your musicians are asleep on their lyres, and you, Supreme Pontifex, Earthly God, Imperial Nibbler of Peers, are currently hiding under a golden blanket because your astrologer said the stars looked concerned. Welcome to the Roman Spiritual Crisis Hour, omens everywhere, logic nowhere. You're awakened by a loud clatter. Not assassins this time, just a bust of Mars falling off its pedestal. Obviously, this means war, or constipation, or both. A priest is summoned. He inspects the fallen statue, the crack in the marble, and the alignment of your left eyebrow, then declares solemnly, The gods are angry, probably with your cousin. You nod gravely and make a note to feed your cousin to the crocodiles. Just to be safe. Ghosts, but make it political. As you try to fall back asleep, a whisper floats through the room. Not poetry, not a lover. Nope. You're dead, uncle, again. He shows up every few weeks to complain about the wine, insult your fashion, and suggest military reforms. You offer him incense. He demands land reform. You scream into a pillow and add exorcism to tomorrow's schedule. Visiting the oracle, again, unfortunately. Desperate for clarity, you ride out, in a litter carried by 8 eunuchs in matching sandals, to consult Rome's most enigmatic oracle. She lives in a cave, of course. You ask, Will I live long? She replies, You will live until the last fig falls. You nod, pretending that makes sense, then ask what that even means. She coughs theatrically, rolls her eyes, and disappears behind a curtain. Classic. Inventing new gods just to feel something. Back home, shaken by cosmic ambiguity and mediocre cave hospitality, you commission a new temple to Vibius, god of safe decisions. You declare his sacred animal the turtle and his sacred number potato. Priests are confused but nod enthusiastically. One asks if tithing in grapes is acceptable. You promote him, dealing with the cult of yourself. Meanwhile, your publicists, aka terrified poets, are hard at work inventing myths about you. One poem now claims you were born from a swan's sneeze, another that you once fought Neptune using only your charisma and a bronze spatula. You approve both. Modesty is for traitors, bad dreams, worse portents. That night, your dreams are vivid. In one, you are eaten by a cabbage the size of Sicily. In another, your statue weeps marmalade. You awaken drenched in sweat. A slave informs you Mars is in retrograde. Again, you sigh, and just before dawn, as light creeps through your jewel-encrusted curtains, you receive a note from the high priest. Your mother dreamt of a flaming goat that smelled like betrayal. She recommends purging the treasury. You shrug. Seems legit. The sun is rising. Time for more prophecy, paranoia, and politically motivated bird-watching. The night is young. The candles are lit. The musicians are tuning their lyres for the 7th time. And you, beloved ruler of the known world, are staring blankly at a roasted ostrich wearing a tiny gold crown. Welcome to Roman fine dining. Hope you brought your digestive resilience. The feast begins. With questions. You enter the dining hall flanked by 2 dancers and 1 philosopher who smells like myrrh and disappointment. The table stretches endlessly, covered in absurdity. Lark tongues, jellyfish soaked in vinegar, a pudding shaped like Jupiter's face. Your guests clap, mostly out of fear. One senator cries gently into his honey-roasted dormouse. Standard behaviour, the orgy that wasn't really fun. Yes, it's technically called an orgy, but no, it's not all hedonism and harp solos. It's more like awkward belly dancing, forced poetry readings, a eunuch reciting legal codes in falsetto, and a magician who turns grapes into slightly different grapes. You lean over to your general and whisper, "Are we having fun yet?" he mutters. "I think my eel bit someone." You nod. This feels about right. A toast to death, probably. You rise to give a toast. It's part tradition, part performance art, part low-key threat. To friends, family, and the unknown number of people currently trying to poison me. May your efforts remain unsuccessful and mildly embarrassing. Polite laughter. Someone coughs. Someone else vomits in a decorative vase. You continue sipping your wine anyway. Poisoned or not. At least it's aged. The entertainment escalates. Quickly after dessert, which is for some reason flaming cheese, the real show begins. A mime reenacts your birth, complete with animal noises. A senator performs an interpretive dance about fiscal responsibility. Then the dwarves arrive riding pigs dressed as senators. It's unclear whether this is satire or a gift. Either way, you applaud. Then quietly order 3 new scribes to record this as a divine revelation. A guest collapses. Again, midway through the 8th course. Roasted nightingale glazed in despair. A guest keels over. Everyone freezes. Was it poison? Dramatic allergy? Emotional overload from the eel juggling act? You roll your eyes. Someone fetch the taster. Again. The food taster bites the bird. Shrugs. Swallows. Lives. You promote him to minor deity. More wine. Less reason. The night blurs. A general declares war on a chair. Your astrologer insists Venus just blinked, and that's a bad sign. You declare tomorrow will be a holiday. The festival of my left eyebrow. Everyone cheers. Your eyebrow twitches approvingly. The existential crisis portion of the evening. As the torches flicker low and the music stumbles into minor keys, you feel it again, that soft Roman dread. What if none of this matters? What if Jupiter doesn't like your new statue? What if the poets only love you for the figs? You sigh. A slave offers a fresh pillow. It smells like lavender and denial. You whisper, "Tell me I'm still a god." The slave bows. "You are, sire." You believe him, for now. The end of the night, not the paranoia. Eventually you stumble from the hall, barefoot and covered in flower petals and fish sauce. You pass a fountain, it's spitting blood, or maybe wine. You nod approvingly. Your mother's latest note awaits on your pillow. She dreamt of a goat made of mirrors. You don't even ask what it means. And so, dear listener, another day in Imperial Rome ends, not with clarity, but with flaming cheese and 5 new assassination rumours. By this point, dear Emperor, you've dined like a god, dodged poisoned fruit, outlawed focaccia, and renamed July after yourself. And yet, something feels off. It begins slowly. A flicker, a voice, a whisper from the marble statue that definitely just moved. Congratulations, you're going mad. Step 1. Casual paranoia. You start hearing things. The breeze says your name. The walls breathe. The Praetorian Guard looks just a little too loyal. You hold court in a mirror. You nod to your reflection. "Only you understand me." Your reflection nods back. Or maybe it winks. You don't ask. Step 2. Executing furniture. One day, a table insults you. You're sure of it. You have it beheaded. Next week, a decorative vase plotting rebellion is tossed from the balcony. The pigeons cheer. Probably. At your birthday feast, you command a marble bust to be whipped for sarcastic silence. It doesn't object. That's even more suspicious. Step 3. Mother dearest. Your mother, still alive, unfortunately, has upped her dream frequency. Now it's 3 per night. One features a talking horse in a senator's toga. Another predicts your death via spoiled olives. The last is just a loaf of bread screaming repent. You ban olives, and dreams, and horses, just in case. Your mother responds with passive-aggressive embroidery that reads, "I warned you." Step 4. Declaring yourself a god. Again. One morning, you wake up and decide you're the new Mercury. Messenger god. Winged sandals. The whole thing. You declare all citizens must refer to you as swift-booted wonder of the West. You force musicians to compose a theme song. It's just harp strumming and the word glorious repeated for 47 minutes. Critics die mysteriously. Step 5. A vision quest, sponsored by mushrooms. Enter the sacred mushrooms. Your healer insists they'll cure your melancholy. Instead, you spend 8 hours talking to a spoon. You emerge from your trance naked, covered in figs, announcing that the moon is plotting a coup and your bathtub is your true heir. The Senate considers it a good day. Step 6. Marble romance. You fall in love with a statue. She's beautiful, cold, silent, just your type. You throw a wedding. All of Rome is invited. The statue says nothing, obviously. Everyone claps anyway. The marriage is short-lived. She cracks slightly after a particularly passionate embrace. You accuse the sculptor of treason. He's exiled. The statue gets a tomb with doves. Step 7. The ultimate decree. You call a midnight emergency meeting of the Senate. You arrive wearing peacock feathers and sadness. "I've discovered the truth," you declare. A hush falls. "I am not the emperor. I am a concept, an idea, a divine poem made flesh. From now on, all laws must rhyme." Your general blinks. A senator faints. You are pleased. Your final thought, probably. Before bed, you stare at the ceiling. You whisper, "Do they love me?" The ceiling answers with a creak. You nod. Yes, clearly. You fall asleep under a mountain of silk, clutching a dagger and a letter from your mother that smells like sage and resentment. So, here you are. the day's winding down and you're the Emperor of Rome. A title that sounds glorious until you realise it's basically a fancy death sentence with free meals. Every whispered compliment is probably a secret curse, and every smile hides a dagger, sometimes literally. If you thought dodging poison was hard, wait until you try dodging your own inner circle. You've just survived the Senate's endless babble, dodged the suspicious grapes, and nodded like you totally understand which provinces need more taxes. Hint, all of them. Now it's time for the night shift. That's right, the exclusive club of assassins, spies, and well-meaning backstabbers who've all got your number, or want to put theirs on your head. Your astrologer just showed up, waving a scroll. The stars are not aligned, my lord. Mercury is retrograde, Venus is sulking, and Mars looks angry enough to throw a spear through your forehead. You nod seriously. Excellent, send the dancers in. But let's back up for a second. How did you even get here? One moment you were a bright-eyed senator or a loyal general. The next, boom, crowned emperor. Congratulations. Now your sleep schedule is dictated by paranoia. Your hobbies include suspicious glances, and your dinner companions often come with hidden knives. Every knock on your door is a test. Is it your trusted Praetorian guard, or the assassin disguised as a servant? You laugh nervously as you clutch your dagger, because the only thing worse than being emperor is dying boringly. At this point you're juggling threats like a circus performer on a unicycle in a lightning storm. Senators plot, generals scheme. Your mother dreams ominously. And you? You just want to get through the night without becoming the latest victim in the imperial highlight reel. You check your reflection in the polished bronze of your throne room. You look great, you tell yourself, if great means one assassination attempt away from disaster. But don't despair. Tomorrow's another day. Another chance to wear the crown, smile for the crowd, and pray that your lunch isn't laced with poison. And when you finally lay your head down, maybe, just maybe, you'll get some sleep. Or at least a few hours before the next dagger flies. Ah, dinner time. That magical moment when you, the Emperor of Rome, get to gather your closest allies, or at least the people who claim to be allies, around a table heavy with food, wine, and a healthy dose of suspicion. Because in Rome, the only thing sharper than the knives on the table might be the knives hidden under it. Picture this. You recline on your plush couch, surrounded by silk cushions embroidered with golden eagles, while slaves pour you wine that's just barely tolerable, and maybe slightly spiked, no guarantees. The room buzzes with laughter, flattery, and the kind of gossip that would make even the most scandalous soap opera blush. Your dinner guests. A delightful mix of senators with eyes darting suspiciously, generals trying not to look too eager, and maybe your mother, who's quietly giving you that "I told you so" look from across the room. The menu. Oh, it's decadent. Roasted boar stuffed with figs, dormice glazed with honey, exotic fish caught just that morning, and dessert that's probably worth more than your monthly stipend. But keep your wits about you. One wrong bite and it could be your last. Conversations swirl around the table like smoke. Talk of upcoming military campaigns, whispered accusations of treachery, and debates over who's getting the next province as a gift. Everyone smiles, but behind those smiles lurks ambition sharper than any gladius. Suddenly a toast, glasses raised high. To Rome, to glory, to the Emperor's health. Everyone drinks. You force a smile. Inside, you're calculating the odds of survival until dawn. The night progresses. Music plays softly. Servants glide through the room, refilling cups and eavesdropping expertly. Somewhere, a subtle nod is exchanged. A signal. The tension tightens like a noose. You know this dinner could end in laughter or in blood, but for now you savour the moment. After all, it's not every day you get to dine with history or become it in such a dramatic fashion. When the last guest departs and the torches flicker low, you retreat to your chambers. You can almost hear the shadows whispering conspiracies, and as you lay your head down you wonder, will tomorrow bring another feast or a funeral? Thanks for staying with me through this slow burn of Roman intrigue and danger. If you're still awake, here's a little something to help you drift off. The gentle sound of rain tapping on ancient stone, carrying away the worries of empire and whispering soft good nights. Let the rain wash over you. Sleep well, future emperor.